But I do feel agents are getting better over time. I feel like it's just a matter of time where humans will not have to learn applications or adapt to applications. Applications will just understand what humans want and just get it done for them. And then you will be able to hire and fire applications. We have always elevated ourselves to a level where we can get stuff done very easily. So we live a more convenient, lazy, happy life. They don't want just prompt and response agents, right? They want agents that say, hey, run this task for me at 9 a.m. Pacific every Monday. But I think companies are having this fatigue of trying to build everything internally. You can't do that.
You know, your three co-founders, one is in India, one is you're in the Bay Area, and Anirudh is in Seattle. How do you really make it work?
So you need some humans, right? And one founder cannot like supervise so much, right? So we feel like the velocity, we have a small engineering team, like a 10-member engineering team, but the velocity at which we are launching feature after feature, like it's insane, right? It's almost like I have a 200-member engineering team right now. It is difficult to hire good people, but you know, I feel like everybody's chasing after the really solid AI engineers. There are not that many autonomous agents that can do entire tasks for them. Now you could also argue that can agents also do that, right, in future?
Welcome to the Day One podcast by Elevation Capital, where we chronicle stories of the founders we invest with. Today I have Deepak with me, who's the founder of Adopt AI. Adopt AI is a company that transforms any application into an agent. Deepak, thank you for coming today. I think.
Yeah, thank you.
Glad that we are in the same room. I think it's rare that we are in the same room.
I know,
it's usually the Zooms, but very excited to have you here. Deepak, just to begin with, right? You've been a founder before and you've seen so many companies and journeys. I think just really go back. I wanted to start before we get into what Adopt does and where you are today. I wanted to talk a little bit about your own story. You built a company, sold it to 6sense successfully, then started again. What has been the learnings from those journeys? And I think fundamentally, what has changed in the last 5-7 years from your vantage point?
Yeah, cool. First of all, Poorvi, thank you for having me here. I want to start with a little bit of background about myself before I answer that question. Hey everyone, I'm Deepak. I live in the Silicon Valley. I'm here for a short trip to India. And I've pretty much been like a 0 to 1 guy for most of my life, right? So I've been part of a couple of 0 to 1 journeys, then did my own company, Slintel, and now I'm doing Adopt here. But Poorvi, coming back to your question of what changed and how I was thinking about like Slintel back then was, I was actually, before Slintel, I was at Eightfold and then Traction as the first business I had taken them to a few million in ARR. And I saw a pain point that I felt like I should solve because we were selling constantly to GTM teams. And with Adopt, with Slintel, we went and solved for that pain point, right? We built a platform that understands buyer intent and basically decomposes that into what sellers and marketers can use. Yeah. So it was basically an intelligence layer on top, right? And our thought process at that time was there were a lot of systems of record, right? You had CRMs, you had MAPs, and there were systems of engagement that were being built, like the outreaches, gongs of the world, and then you needed systems of intelligence on top of that, right? So that was a bet we took, and we said, let's go deep into it. So we were doing a little bit of AI ML stuff back then too. It's a very different story with Adopt, right?
So Deepak, see, now you build that company around the 2018-19 era. I think it got acquired in 21. And now, you started again last year. It's the 25 era. The world has changed. AI is the center and forefront of everything. How are you thinking about your team? What has changed, right? Just the way you build the company, the way you started Slintel versus the way you started Adopt.
Yeah, sure. Let me get into a little bit of specifics here. I think that'll be helpful for the audience too. So when I started Slintel back in 2018, it was really brutal. It was very hard for me to raise funding as a first-time entrepreneur, right? Prior to that, I was in Traction and Eightfold as the first business hire. I'd scaled them to a few million ARR. And with Traction, I had a lot of VC connects. So I thought fundraising is going to be very easy. I learned it the hard way. Rejection all through at the beginning. So we were lucky to get into an incubator program, raised about 200K. And we were like operating with a 5-6 member team with just that money, right? So we were very, very frugal, bootstrapped. And all we were trying to do was trying to get to product market fit so we can raise, right? So that was the first year and a half journey. Things were slow. Fundraising was very difficult. Finding customers was also very difficult, and you're building product. Yeah. But what changed is after like about a year and a half, once we hit a product market fit, we scaled really fast, right? And the VCs came in. Then we understood that VCs always, they want to board a moving train, right? They don't want to come and start the engine of the train, right? For the most part. And that's where a lot of first-time founders get it wrong too. And then the money came in, like we raised a 1.5 million round and a 4.2 and then a 20 million round, all in a span of like, less than a year and a half, right? Because we were also scaling 5x year on year. Yeah. We went from 200K to a million to 5 million the next year. So we're growing very fast. And somewhere around that mark, like we got acquired, right, by 6sense. And again, our perspective changed, right? When I was in 6sense, or when we got acquired, we were probably around 70, 80 million ARR at that time in 6sense. And now they're over 200, almost 3x that number. So I saw that journey from 70 to 200 plus. And I saw it from a very different lens this time. I was not the CEO, right? So I was VP product of a 50 million ARR portfolio. But I got to see real time how like a very different team structure was, right? Like in Slintel, when we got acquired, we had 100 plus people in India and just 2 people in the US, right? So I was very happy joining a 6sense team where there's a lot more people in the US. And with 6sense, what I realized was a lot of the go-to-market team was actually there, right? They were doing, like Slintel's ACV was around 15K, although we had a few 100K plus contracts, right? 6sense's ACV at that time was about 120K, right? A lot of contracts were over 300, 400, some $1 million contract plus, right? So there was a very different sales motion. So then, those 3 years of my learning, watching go-to-market teams was so we had commercial segment, enterprise segment, strategic segment, and then you had product marketing was playing a major role. You're on Gartner reports everywhere, etc. So it's a very different sales motion, enterprise and strat versus SMB. So that was a very big learning for me. I've taken all those learnings back into Adopt now.
Oh, very interesting. And coming to the core question now, Deepak, what is the core insight that actually led you to that, hey, now I have to jump out and really start my ship again? What's the core insight that when the entire AI tailwind started taking shape, what was it that you identified in the segment, in the market, that you felt that, hey, okay, this is a problem that I want to solve?
Yeah, so I was in 6sense for 3 years post-acquisition, which is a long time, right, post-acquisition. Right after year 2, we started thinking of like, hey, what do we do next? What do we do next? And we saw a lot of tailwinds in the agentic AI space. And back in July last year, when we were getting out of 6sense to start Adopt, I saw this massive opportunity coming, which was like if you look at applications today, right, the way they are. We were questioning ourselves, will the interfaces of applications stay the same in the future, in 5 years, 10 years from now? Will applications even exist? Will they become something else? And the reason we were questioning ourselves all these things is, as a product leader for the last few years, right, you have a product vision, you have product team members, you're building feature after feature, but features don't get adopted that easily. And then you deploy an army of tools and armies of people. Like you have professional services, you have customer support, success, and then you have onboarding tools, training tools, support tools. All of these are just, geared towards one thing, right? Help your end users derive the value they want from your product, right? And improve adoption. And we sat there thinking that there has to be something fundamentally different here. All of these sound incremental for us. And then that's when it struck us that in the new world, humans will not have to learn applications or adapt to applications. Applications will just understand what humans want and just get it done for them. Let me elaborate what I mean by that, right? So a short-term view and a long-term view. A short-term view is applications will have agentic interfaces. They will have agents that understand human intent, behavior, preferences. They'll know what you did yesterday on the application 10 days ago. They will know your goals and they will try to help you accomplish that, right? And today, we are at the very beginning of that phase where you have prompt and response agents in applications.
Exactly.
But the way we looked at it, we said, hey, from prompt and response agents, you will go towards the more autonomous agent territory, right? You'll have schedule-based agents, trigger-based agents, you will have autonomous agents, and then you will have goal-driven agents. And a goal-driven agent essentially helps like a tool change into more of like an AI teammate. And let me explain what that means, right? So if you think, I'll give you a slightly different analogy also. Let's say you're trying to do some carpentry work in the home, right? You would use tools today. You would have a hammer, a screwdriver, some nails. You try to drill some, make some carpentry, right? But now you have automated screwdrivers coming, right? You have automated hammers. Like tomorrow, what if there was a robot that could just do it for you? Or there was basically automated equipment that could just do it for you? I think that's where applications are moving towards. Applications were tools predominantly. And if you look at why they started in the previous era, like you could not put everything on a notepad or an Excel sheet, right? So you needed much bigger applications. So they became these huge complex beasts of workflows and tabs and clicks and And that was a good interface for the past. But if you think about it in the future, like all people need from an application is I just want to get a job done. Like that's the most natural human behavior. They don't want workflows, they want jobs, right? So the way I look at it is if you think of like an ABM, I'll give you some examples. If you think of an ABM application, like 6sense in the future, right? People will just come to it and say, hey, I have $200,000 in budget, get me 200 leads in the next 3 months, right? You figure out how to do it, right? Or they'll go to an application like Adrata and say, hey, I just need to get SOC 2 certified in 6 months. You figure out how to do it, right?
Yeah.
When we hire people, that's what we do, right? When I'm hiring a demand gen person or a BDR, I just give them a target and say, go do it. They come up with a plan and they go and figure out how to execute it. I think that's where applications are moving towards.
Yeah.
You will have goal-driven meta agents come up with plans. They will have a bunch of autonomous agents. And they will seek human input where required. But for the most part, they will go and do the job and come report back. And then you will be able to hire and fire applications just like you hire and fire humans, right? You'll say, I give you a task or goal, you didn't do it, now I'm going to move on, right? I think that is where the world's moving towards. Like you really don't need the tools, right? Like when you can get jobs done.
No, I agree with you. And see, that's very interesting because we keep hearing from founders and enterprise customers as well that today, where are we in the spectrum? Like, for example, the example you took on autonomous agents, right? Where you could just hire and fire, give them a task. If they don't perform well, just go on and, fire another human being or an agent. Yeah. But today, do you think the spectrum of autonomous is questionable?
Yes.
Can agents truly perform every action that you have in mind, or do you still need a human in the loop? And is that how we think about our product?
Yeah, so today, even though capabilities are moving very, very fast, we as humans are not ready for that revolution yet. So I'll give you a simple example, right? So anytime you're doing a post action, which means you're writing something to a database or you're editing something, you always want human confirmation because you don't trust the agent. It's not that the agent can't do it. You
Correct.
just don't trust that agent as
Correct.
much. Whereas you're just doing a fetch action or you're just getting something, answering questions, generating reports, you're okay, right? Like
Very
lower
fair.
risk, you're okay.
Very fair.
Similar thing, like you remember the Canadian Airlines controversy, right? What happened? The higher the ticket value, the higher the risk, and that's where you kind of seek human confirmation. But I do feel agents are getting better over time. And I feel like it's just a matter of time where the human role will be elevated to a point where they don't have to give confirmation to agents, right? They are just devising creative strategies, plans, and they have agents to go and execute them. Now, you could also argue that can agents also do that, right, in future? Maybe, maybe not. But I feel as humans, we have always, like if you look at the Industrial Revolution and the internet, we have always elevated ourselves to a level where we can get stuff done very easily.
Yeah.
So we live a more convenient, lazy, happy life. Right? It never is that way. Like you always have more work. Sure.
I wish my work reduced. But yes.
But I do think like we are stretching the boundary of what autonomous means, and we are at a very early stage. Like I think we should have any founder building here. I think you should have a 5 to 10 year vision of, hey, how will the world look like?
Yeah.
And don't build it for like the next 1-2 years.
Yeah. No, I totally concur that. And I also feel that I think the way technology is evolving, I think we are lagging behind so much in adoption and making sense of it versus the way things, from a technological perspective, what is possible today versus what was possible 3 months back has completely changed.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? So it's like always catching up from a human perspective.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, exactly. Like the technology is leading the change here, especially with AI. There's so much happening. And even today, like for me, for myself, right, I have to listen to 1 hour of podcast every day to just catch up, right?
Yeah.
And
keeping yourself updated is a full-time job.
Yeah. If you go on a vacation for a week, like you've missed out on half of what the world has been doing.
I'm always in a paranoia that what am I missing on? 100%.
Right.
Yet, but this is an important one, right? Because the way you build products have also changed because of this. The way you think about your products, the way, the modularization of products, because anything can change any time in the near future. So what has been the product strategy inside Adopt that you have now focused on that, hey, the way we build products will be focused on this strategy? And also, like, if you can elaborate on what Adopt aims to solve today.
Yeah, I think both are related, right?
Yes.
So we are trying to help product companies or application companies evolve for this new world, right? We don't want them to lag behind and get disrupted by an AI native company that just has fluid dynamic interfaces and just gets jobs done versus the bigger companies are still dealing with static interfaces, workflows, etc. Right? So we have to use that in Adopt. We have to eat our own dog food. But the way, there's a lot of education that is happening right now. We do a lot of roundtables with product leaders where everybody talks about how they're building, and there's always so much learning, right, in the room when we have those. So the things that we are realizing, which is eye-opening, right, for a lot of people. And I feel like a lot of times the SaaS companies or the technology-first companies lead the revolution, and then other companies like banks, healthcare, all catch up, right? So we talk to a lot of these companies, and what we hear from them is, they all agree right now that their application interface needs to change,
Yep.
right? You just can't have your dashboard page, 5 tabs, button clicks, right? They're all starting with either a Copilot interface with agents embedded in it, because eventually when you launch agents, you need an interface. Where will you launch them, right?
Correct.
You launch them inside and outside. So inside the app, you have a Copilot interface, or you make them part of your search experience, which is more native, Command K, or you have a cursor-like homepage where everything is rendered on the fly as you type things, right? And you only go to static tabs if required, right? So that's the interim starting point. We're also seeing all these companies, they want to go to the next level. They don't want just prompt and response agents, right? They want agents that say, hey, run this task for me at 9 a.m. Pacific every Monday, or run this report for me and send it to me by email, right? You can't do that on applications today.
You can't.
But with agents, you can do that, right? They also want agents to understand structured and unstructured data, not just application APIs, right? Because you can do so much more.
Yeah.
They want agents to do reasoning, deep research. So I'll give you an example, right? For example, let's say you're a campaign creation tool. Today you can create campaigns on the tool and you can view campaigns. But tomorrow, like what people are asking is, hey, can we basically recommend what are the what are the top performing campaigns, analyze the bottom performing campaigns, and then go, like the agent goes and changes the bottom performing ones to the top performing ones, right? So deep analysis, reasoning, all of that is coming now. Then they're also asking for like, hey, can these agents run on certain triggers? And can they run not only on my app, but can they run outside my app, right? So can I put an MCP server? Can I have a Slack integration, Microsoft Copilot? Can I orchestrate across tools? So people are like forward-thinking product leaders are already thinking and building in this direction.
Yeah, but I think on that point, right, at least in your conversation, and there's always a conundrum between these bigger enterprises. Can we build this in-house, or do we buy a product to fundamentally change the way our application looks and works?
Yeah.
What has been your, so far, like, very early days, but what has been your realization there that, hey, are these companies willing to jump the ship and really buy the product, or they're still waiting and thinking that they can do it themselves?
Yeah, I would love your perspective on this, Poorvi, too, because you're talking to so many companies. I'll keep mine short, but I would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is every company is trying to build AI in-house right now.
Yeah.
And they're also very willing to do POCs with external company. POCs converting to production use cases, that is a little rare at this point.
Yeah.
But I think companies are having this fatigue of trying to build everything internally. You can't do that. Like even in the application world, in the beginning, everybody wanted to build a CRM in-house, right? If you remember. You couldn't, and then you started buying CRMs.
Correct.
Right? The same revolution is happening, but I would love to hear from you.
We are very similar. So, and we have a large portfolio. We speak to our own companies and enterprises externally. See, the biggest problem is people think they want to be AI native, but they're not. Right, and fundamentally, it's not their core job to be. Yes, they need to think AI first. They should be able to use all the arms that they have to their disposal. But do you do it internally, restructure the entire org? That's very, very difficult. So we keep getting requests from our own portfolio and a lot of enterprises externally that, hey, this is what we're trying to solve. They look at a bunch of products. They try to then implement something internally. But this building part is definitely inherently there, especially in the tech-first organizations, because they have very mature tech teams, right, who want to build more AI fundamentally. So they try out a bunch of stuff, and then they come up with the realization, which is yet to happen. I'm pretty sure that will happen in the next 5 months, that, hey, it takes so much effort to actually maintain it, right? This is not the core job of the company. I want to be thinking through, how do I grow revenue of my company? How do I do the core things that the company is responsible for, versus maintaining something that is great, that will help me, but that's not core to me, right? So I do think that realization will happen a lot sooner. Right now, we are in this conundrum of that people want to build internally a lot more, but I'm pretty sure they will get to adopting these platforms, because they realize that, hey, it's not worth it.
And the longer you delay, the more market share you lose. Right?
Exactly. And that's what we've been pushing. And I do feel people are coming to this realization, some sooner than later.
Yeah.
But especially with tech, I think the non-tech segment is different. They are like, hey, we are going to adopt, we are going to buy the best vendor out there.
Yeah.
But especially with tech teams, because they fundamentally have very, very strong tech teams, they do delay the decision of buying. At times, especially in India. No, that's very interesting. I think, Deepak, another question, right? How do you think about the internal team in this case? Because fundamentally, and obviously all of us keep debating about this 1 billion unicorn company or $1 billion company. In my opinion, that's a far-fetched dream right now. But how do you think about the team that you're constructing, especially in the AI native world? Do you really need those 100 people today, or you've actually substantially cut down on the way you think about the team build?
Yeah, I think you have to substantially cut down. I think you can do so much more with less right now. Yeah. One engineer is probably equivalent to 5 engineers in like 2 years ago, right? You can do so much with cursor and tools. Same things are happening on the go-to-market side of things. I do feel like you do need a strong core team. I doubt if you can build a $1 billion company today, maybe like a few years later, especially because, Poorvi, there are not that many autonomous agents that can do entire task. So you need some humans, right? And one founder cannot like supervise so much, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard. But you do hear like companies with 10 employees hitting $10 million or 50 employees hitting 100 million ARR. You hear that a lot. I do think there is an inherent advantage of keeping teams small. Like me and Rahul, our CTO, we talk about this all the time, and even Anirudh is our CIO. So we feel like the velocity, we have a small engineering team, like a 10-member engineering team, but the velocity at which we are launching feature after feature, like it's insane, right? It's almost like I have a 200-member engineering team right now. Now, if we grow this significantly, the engineering team, what the problem we're going to have is we're going to have layers now, right?
Yeah.
And layers slow you down.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to have focus because everybody wants to do their own thing. So it's hard. I've seen like large companies, I've worked there where you have 300, 400-member engineering. It's hard to bring everyone together and work really hard to solve like problems really deep, right? It's hard. So I do think in engineering, I see that. I'm still questioning like whether this can be done that efficiently in certain areas. For example, in sales, every seller has a quota. Let's say $1 million quota in the US typically. So if you have to scale to 100 million, you probably need like more than 100 sellers today, right? I haven't seen like autonomous AI sellers coming in. Maybe that'll happen in future. So there are some areas like marketing. I think a lot of stuff can be like automated. Like on customer success to maybe at least the low value ACV accounts can all be like done by AI CSMs, right? But there are some areas, so I still doubt if we can reach that well. But to answer your question, Poorvi, we are building this very differently. Back in Slintel, that was pre-AI era, we had large engineering team, sales teams. Here we don't want to grow our engineering team too much. We want to keep it small. We do want to be very cognizant. Every time we are trying to hire someone, we ask ourselves, do we really need that person, right?
That's the right
Can we
question
operate as a dehydrated team? I also heard the Windsurf founder talk about that. I think it's very important in today's world. Otherwise, you lose your competitive advantage.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think the only other point personally that I will add is that a lot of these companies that we keep hearing about, these very quick 50 million, 100 million ARR companies are just phenomenal, and that gives you a reason to aspire bigger. But a lot of them are bottom-up companies, fundamentally bottom-up companies, a lot of prosumer companies, right? When you go into enterprise sales, there's still IT, there's still security, there's still guardrail, there's still red taping, and a bunch of others. So you can't imagine an AI doing that. So that's why, especially in high-ticket enterprise sales, are actually at this point in time, it's a lot more consultative as well. And that's why the Palantirs of the world are growing and the stock is amazing, right?
The FDE concept, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you fundamentally need a person who can tell them what's possible.
Yeah.
The person goes there, tells them what's possible, consults them, and then builds the product and the solution accordingly.
I think that's a great point, Poorvi, because you're right. In enterprise sales, you still need some implementation folks, you need some success folks, you need sales. So you can't I don't think you can get rid of all of those layers right now. PLG is where you're seeing very small teams.
Exactly, which makes sense and which is amazing, right? And there'll be certain kind of categories and companies that will shoot like this, but I think it's unfair to expect from an enterprise setting that, hey, there's still the sales cycles, and you and I both know it, right? It's like minimum 3 to 4 months. Because there's so much integral data that you need to actually go about, and security IT takes so much time. So I do think it's unfair to expect enterprise companies to just grow that way very, very quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I think just on that point, right? Again, I think because, and I always ask this from these cross-border founders, See, your three co-founders, one is in India, one is you're in the Bay Area, Anirudh is in Seattle. How do you really make it work?
We are trying to. But yeah, so there's a reason for that also, right? So there's this concept of you build in India and you sell globally, which we believe in too. Like we want to build in multiple geographies, but India has a very strong engineering and product talent that you want to tap into. So it only makes natural sense for one founder to be based here, right? And it also makes one natural sense for one founder to be based in the US because you go to market, you want to build your team, a large portion of that team there. Now, for us, we wanted strategically to have a third founder, a chief AI officer. So Anirudh was actually director of AI at Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
And we realized when we were fundraising, and at that time, it was easy, but we realized that if we are building an AI native company and we want to stay at the cutting edge of AI, we need somebody at the helm, right? And that's the reason we wanted Anirudh. And the reason for location was secondary for us. It was more like the person, the skill set, and I knew him for so many years and said, hey,
no, Anirudh is amazing.
Yeah.
But actually, again, to that point, it's very interesting because in such early stage companies, we have not seen the title of Chief AI Officer because fundamentally you are an AI company, right? Everyone is AI native, everyone is AI first. So how do you, three of you, divide your roles? I think I know it, but I think it'll be helpful for people to know it, that even in an early stage company, what is the role of a chief AI officer? How does it differ from a chief, from the role of a chief technology officer?
So interesting tidbit, right? So when we coined the term chief AI officer, I didn't know if a single company was using that. This was a year ago, right? We just said, hey, we'll have a chief AI officer.
Yeah.
Because the third co-founder made complete sense to have that. Today I was seeing, like actually last week I was seeing a post on LinkedIn saying 60% of larger companies now have chief AI officers or similar titles, right?
Yeah.
Which was very interesting for me to see.
Again, interesting. I think large companies still have it, but I've rarely seen it in very, very early stage companies.
Very early stage companies, yeah. So when you look at a CTO and a CAIO, there's definitely a little bit of overlap. But the way we think about it is the chief AI officer works with the AI engineer. So right now, AI engineering is a separate field, right? So you have backend engineers who know AI, you have front-end engineers who know AI, but you need AI engineers who are very, very deep in AI. So all of that AI engineering team is under Anirudh, and the backend, front-end engineers are under Rahul, the DevOps, etc. I think as you scale, it really helps because the AI team now, we think of it as more of a research team. Yeah. So we're not building LLMs like OpenAI, right? Like if you look at OpenAI, they have a research team which is separate from an engineering team, right? So for us, our AI team is the research team. And that team, we're not, like I said, we're not building foundational models. But if you have to be at the cutting edge of AI, even in your small domain or area, you have to push the barrier constantly.
Yeah.
If everybody is just building what customers want, who is researching, right? Right. So this team has that freedom to kind of go figure out and then come back with ideas and then be implemented.
Do you recommend that for any early stage company?
If you have a long-term horizon of 5-10 years, I would definitely say so. Because eventually, we were discussing this the other day too, OpenAI is going to build features. Everybody's building applications and features. How do you win, right? And unless you are if you're just a wrapper on top of LLMs and you're just trying to go with what customers are asking you for, I still feel it's very hard to build moats in this area, right? In fact, what I'm beginning to believe now is the application mode is completely going away. There is a data moat. Everybody's trying to protect their data now. You saw what Salesforce did with Slack, right?
Yeah.
And there's a distribution moat. But the distribution moat is not really a very big moat in enterprise, unlike consumer. I think you agree with that, right? Because you just have 2-3 year contracts, but what happens when the contract expires? People switch. So the data moat also, I feel, you can protect your data and you can have a closed ecosystem, but at some point, the companies will want their data out, right? Like it's their enterprise data that they will want out. So I do think you have to push the barriers on research and you have to stay at least 3 to 6 months ahead of everybody else in terms of your thought process and on what you're launching.
I think that's very true. I do feel like at this point in time, no matter even if you're an application company, just to keep pushing the barrier of what's possible in research. As you said, it's not that you have to build foundational models, but you have to still keep pushing the boundaries of research and then how does it apply to your product and focus the research in that direction.
Absolutely, yeah.
No, very, very interesting. And Deepak, again, I think it's just been a few months, not more, but anything that you thought, because obviously we came up with a very strong thesis, very strong idea of what we wanted to do, and things change. The world is changing literally every few months. Anything that you underestimated?
underestimated in terms of like change. I'm just thinking here, but I would say probably not so much because we always like as founders we are always paranoid, and I was always paranoid that the world will change super fast. It is changing super fast, but it's not something that we did not predict. Like we have been hearing about super intelligence, AGI, we've been hearing about agentic AI. Everybody is like waiting of when this will happen. So if it happens, it's not a surprise that super intelligence came like just in 2 years, because people are already used to it now, right? That thought process. So I'd say, yeah, but maybe a few things caught me by a little bit of stuff. Like MCP came out much sooner, for example, and then A2A, some protocols came out like way sooner than they did. The big companies pivoted to AI way sooner. Like if you look at Satya Nadella talk, right? 60% of his speeches now, or even on Microsoft Build, is about Microsoft Copilot and Copilot Studio. It's not about Azure. It's not about, right?
Those are background engines now.
Yeah, same thing with Google. The big companies are already talking, they're betting all of their horses on it. Like if you look at Mark Benioff, he says, the only thing that matters is Agentforce. Forget Salesforce, right? Like, so every big company is betting all their horses on this. So you can see like, and all the VCs are too, right? you're all investing in AI companies now.
All agentic companies. We have a big portfolio on agentic companies now.
Yeah. So there is a revolution happening, right? And it's always good to stay ahead.
Yeah, I think personally for me, honestly, when we spoke about agents and the way fundamentally things are changing, I did feel that the adoption will take a little bit more time. I think it's way faster than I had expected. I think just the way every day, like I use bunch of agents for my personal work, small things, small workflows that I'm using for, not fully autonomous, of course, but I didn't imagine how agents will actually pick up this fast.
Yeah, especially on the consumer side of things.
Especially on the consumer side of things.
Pretty insane. Yeah, I would love to see, like, let's say my parents or, the older generation or young kids, maybe not very young kids, but them seeing like how do they start using UI? Because especially with an aging population across the world, I think AI can help them a lot, right? But they're not, like my dad and my mom, they still don't use AI, right?
Of course.
But I think that'll change pretty soon too.
Yeah. They keep hearing about AI, but they just don't know what to use it for. No, I hear you. So Deepak, I think one of the other very core part of building a company today is that, hey, how do you cut through the noise? Like companies, at least from the outside, a lot of companies talk about similar things, they look similar, etc. So for customers, it's very difficult to say that, hey, if this is the company I want to go after, this is the vendor I choose, etc. What do you think needs to change in go-to-market, and what are you doing to actually cut through the noise?
Yeah, I feel like good question. And I'm doing something very different with Adopt versus my previous company, Slintel. I think with go-to-market, people always ask, hey, what works? And they're trying to learn. Whatever people tell you that what works, don't do it. Right? That's like a lot of stuff, what worked 2 years ago will not work right now. Like I'll give you an example, right? At Slintel, we were very big on SEO. We were very big on SEM. SEO, you don't get too many leads today. SEM is very high cost channel, right? Today, we were also very big on like a lot of different things. We were doing, obviously we were doing content marketing and all of that. But we were very small. Like we weren't doing events at all. We weren't doing we weren't working with Gartner, for example. I know enterprise companies do that, but if you look at like the new age companies today, I don't know if you listen, Poorvi, to Cluely.
I do, and I think they've done a very good job.
They went viral because of a lot of controversial posts of the founder, right, and the background. So I think stories still sell, controversy still sells. Obviously, you have to balance it out with what is right for the company, but when I look at things right now, like what we are doing now is we are optimizing for agent AEO, not SEO. SEO is still there. So we have, for example, a glossary of questions that AEO, like that we know that people ask on AEO, and then how do we, even in citations, even when answers are coming in, how do you feature yourself in those citations, right? And that's one of the things. We're spending a lot more effort on product marketing. I think cutting through the noise starts with product marketing, right? People should be able to know exactly, like if you ask a random stranger, what does Adopt do? Like they should be able to know and say it in like a line, right? If they can't, then they don't understand, and then you just noise for them, right? So we're spending a lot of effort there. We're trying to spend time with Gartner, Forrester, and start ranking, because that's how enterprises buy. We're trying to do a lot of events right now, because when there's so much noise, Poorvi, I'm sure, I think you told me last time, you get 1,000+ emails from startups on a weekly basis, right? And I'm beginning to see that too. I'm not as many, but I get so many emails, even as a small company founder. So imagine the big company VPs, right? How many emails do they get? How many calls do they get? It's insane with AI. So I feel like you have to figure out how do you meet them in person? How do you do events? How do you maybe have a golfing event with them, attend events where they are? How are you top of mind for them? Just like sending really good cold email or amazing, like having an amazing cold sales call, I don't think is working that well anymore. And I think it'll degrade as time progresses. I also feel like you have to take more initiative before you ask for anything. Like I'll give you an example. Let's say I was selling Adopt, right, to someone. I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to get free access to their application, take their applications, agentify it, spend some time and effort, maybe send a Loom video saying that, hey, we have spent 10 hours on this and we have done this. Do you want a call, right? Yeah. Take initiative, and the same thing is happening in hiring actually, Poorvi, right now. Same analogy, right?
I was about to ask the same question with the entire meta intelligence thing. I'm pretty sure it's difficult to hire good people.
It is difficult to hire good people, but I feel like everybody's chasing after the really solid AI engineers, but there's a lot of people who can adapt and learn very quickly. And those are the people who are showing initiative. So we have had a lot of people reach out to us doing entire assignments before we even ask them to, right? And saying, hey, I've analyzed your website. I can think like all these things. Even the engineers that we hired, they went and they understood what we do. They agentified applications. They came to us and said, hey, we have done this. Like, do you want us? Can we have a chat, right? So people are the world is now rewarding initiative more over just pure networking or just sounding cool, right?
Yeah.
What works today may not work tomorrow. So you have to always think of how are you going to be different.
Yeah.
The other thing, Poorvi, I see is, so I'm trying to build my own LinkedIn brand, right? And I'm seeing a lot of founders do that. I think social is going to become bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
I think every founder has to be an influencer. I was listening to the Cluely founder. He said, don't hire a VP of marketing if they don't have 100,000 followers, right? So it's very controversial, but you have to have a following as a business leader. I don't see any other way around it. You can't shy away from social. You have to be on video now, because just posting on text may not be the future, right? You have to do everything and anything possible to be top of mind for people.
Yeah, you have to sell yourself. Like you are in the sales job, unfortunately,
yeah.
whether you like it or not.
Yeah. I'd say even probably CTOs at some point will have to do that, right? But
I actually see that a lot, especially in very, very infrastructure type of companies, very dev toolish kind of companies. I think because it also adds a lot of authority and a lot of trust, because if there's a very technical person talking about a technical product, you just trust them more.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think people are buying from people they can trust versus just whether the product is good enough or not.
Exactly. And people they can learn from also.
Yeah. Yeah, because nobody knows what's happening. So and actually, like to that point, I hear a lot of founders say that, and there's this founder I met recently, very smart founder coming out of Google, and he told me that, I'm getting, and people are talking to me like from a customer discovery perspective, because they want to know what I did before. And they're just very excited about learning about what's possible in AI, and they're okay with, you'll build the product and we'll see where it comes. But they're just very excited to learn from this person.
Yeah, that's why all these POCs are happening, right?
Exactly.
Every enterprise is doing hundreds of POCs just to learn and talk to those founders.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah.
No, super helpful. Deepak, what's the long-term vision for Adopt AI?
Yeah, so the long-term vision is to enable humans or users do tasks autonomously, right? For the most part, by you just converse in natural language, whatever is the most natural form to you, whether it's voice, text, or maybe Neuralink in future, I don't know, right? Like, what is the most natural form? Just converse and just get entire jobs done, right? You don't really have to worry about tooling. I'll go and figure out what to do, and I'll do this. You have imagine every human has an extremely smart assistant who can just get the job done, and you just outsource it to them, right? Yeah. In India, I'm sure in Bangalore, we outsource a lot of tasks. I see that quite a bit, right? With Zepto, Blinkit, all these, you just say, I want food delivered, and you get food delivered, right? Imagine if you could have that across everything that you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we want to help make that vision happen, and we see there's so many applications in the world today and so many getting built. Imagine if they all become agents capable of doing this, and then you have meta agents who can orchestrate across and do complex tasks too. So that's the world we see.
No, super fascinating. We are looking forward to that world to happen as well. I think this is more of a closing thought, Deepak, but because you've done this before, you're doing and navigating the ship second time now, a little bit ahead in the journey. Any closing thought or advice for companies who are just getting started or founders who are just starting their companies today?
Yeah, I would say, if you're thinking of like raising money from VCs or versus bootstrap, right, you should always have like a 5-10 year horizon, because that's what VCs are also looking for. And you should like forget about the 1-2 year view of the world. What is your 5-year view? What is your 10-year view? Write it down, and then how do you achieve that vision? So, for example, like, do you have like an S-tier team kind of helping you deliver the goods there? What are you going to do in year 1, year 3, year 5? Like, just write down the whole plan. And then what is your right to win? Like you said, Poorvi, there's so much noise.
Yeah.
Even VCs, there's insane amount of noise, right? You're seeing so many startups, right? So you always question like, what is their right to win, and why will they win, and why do the founders, the founder market fit, product market fit, why will they win in this category? All of those. So you should have like very, very clear answers, especially if you're raising from VCs. But I would also say, for advice for founders in general, apart from fundraising, is you want to kind of think very differently in terms of company build today, do much more with much less, operate like a dehydrated company. Always think about, like, always question traditional beliefs, right? Can PLG and enterprise sales coexist? Maybe, right? Like, who knows, right? So always bet on the new and stay updated, right? Hear podcasts every day, read about it like, I feel like if you're not listening to podcasts or reading about AI every day of the week, you're losing out as a founder, right? That's how your thesis builds. And then surround yourself with, this is age-old advice, with smart people, right? Like, go meet people, go meet like the best founders in AI. Where are they? They're probably in SFO, they're in Bangalore, and they're in tech hubs of the world. Spend time with them, discuss with them, get ideas, ideate, brainstorm, and then just come back and start building, right?
Yeah.
That
And Deepak, how much of your time goes into this? Just from a share of time in a week?
Yeah, so I live in San Jose,
Yes.
and I drive to my office is also in San Jose, but it takes me 40 minutes to go there. Throughout my drive, I've stopped listening to music, right?
Yeah.
Way to office and way back, I just listen to podcasts. So I get 1.5 hours of podcast time there. If I'm going on walks, if I'm not going on walks with my wife, if I'm going on walks alone, I just listen to a podcast. I'm reading in office, right? Yes, you have to spend time building, and there's a lot of stuff for founders, but you do need to take 2-3 hours out of your day to kind of do this. And I do that. I try to do that pretty regularly. Maybe not on Saturday, Sunday, but definitely on Monday to Friday.
No, that's fascinating. And honestly, I've learned a lot from you, because all the interesting things that you keep on reading, and I think there have been sometimes those hidden gems and nuggets that I've found through you.
Yeah.
But this is super helpful, Deepak. We are very excited about Adopt, and I'm pretty sure there's a world that's changing very fast, and Adopt has a part to play in that.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.